This is the 11th episode of the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1971 in the United States. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Betty Bronson. She was born in November 1906 and she died in October 1971. Her age was 64 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. Betty Bronson was an American film and television actress who began her career during the silent film era. Bronson began her film career at the age of 16 with a bit part in Anna Ascends. At 17, she was interviewed by J. M. Barrie, author of Peter Pan. Although the role had been sought by such established actresses as Gloria Swanson and Mary Pickford, Barrie personally chose Bronson to play the lead in the film adaptation of his work, which was released in 1924. She appeared alongside actresses Mary Bryan, Wendy Darling, and Esther Ralston, Mrs. Darling, both of whom remained lifelong friends. Bronson had a major role, that of Mary, Mother of Jesus, in 1925 silent film adaptation of Ben-Hur. In 1925, she starred in another Barrie story, A Kiss for Cinderella, an artfully made film that failed at the box office. She made a successful transition into sound films with The Singing Fool in 1928, co-starring Al Jolson. She appeared in the sequel, Sonny Boy, with Davy Lee in 1929. She was the leading lady opposite Jack Benny in the romantic drama The Medicine Man in 1930. Raymond Hatton. He was born in July 1887 and he died in October 1971. His age was 84 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. Raymond Hatton was a prolific character actor who appeared in hundreds of films, often in westerns and comedies. Hatton was born in Red Oak, Iowa. His physician father steered him towards a career in medicine. However, Hatton had become enamored of being on stage after he acted in a school play, and he left home to go into acting as a career. Hatton was part of a vaudeville act that went to Hollywood in 1911. There he established a successful silent film career, including a stint being paired in 1920s comedies with Wallace Beery. During the sound era, though, his career skidded, and he usually played smaller supporting roles, including the tobacco-chewing, rowdy character Rusty Jocelyn in the Three Musketeers Western B-picture series. By the 1950s, Hatton's acting roles expanded into television, where he appeared in various series, including The Adventures of Superman. He has a star in the motion pictures section of Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1708 Vine Street. Hatton died on October 21, 1971, in Palmdale, California, aged 84. He is interred at Joshua Memorial Park. Duane Allman. He was born in November 1946 and he died in October 1971. His age was 24 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was a motorcycle accident. Duane Allman was an American rock and blues guitarist and the founder and original leader of the Allman Brothers Band, for which he was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995. Born in Nashville, Tennessee, Allman began playing the guitar at age 14. He formed the Allman Brothers Band with his brother Greg in Jacksonville, Florida in 1969. The group achieved its greatest success in the early 1970s. Allman is best remembered for his brief but influential tenure in the band, and in particular for his expressive slide guitar playing and inventive improvisational skills, a sought-after session musician. Both before and during his tenure with the band, Duane Allman performed with such established stars as King Curtis, Aretha Franklin, Herbie Mann, Wilson Pickett, and Boz Scaggs. He also contributed greatly to the only studio album by Derek and the Dominoes, Layla, and other assorted love songs in 1970. Allen died following a motorcycle crash on October 29, 1971 at the age of 24. Claude Beck. He was born in November 1894 and he died in October 1971. His age was 76 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. He was a pioneer cardiac surgeon, famous for innovating various cardiac surgery techniques and performing the first defibrillation in 1947. He was a nominee for the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 1952. In the 1930s, Beck worked on the problem of how to restore circulation to the heart by developing a technique to implant some pectoral muscle into the pericardium, which provided an additional source of circulation. The technique received great acclaim at the time, though it was eventually replaced with more modern techniques. He performed the first Beck first operation in 1935. The Beck second operation came about in the late 1940s, which created a vein graft between the aorta and coronary sinus. In 1947, he performed the first successful defibrillation. He had been operating on a 14-year-old boy with a congenital disorder, but towards the end of the surgery, as the boy's chest was being closed, the boy went into cardiac arrest. Beck reopened the chest and tried to massage the heart by hand for approximately 45 minutes before proceeding to the use of defibrillator, which had been designed by Beck and built by his friend James Rand. Beck applied the paddles of the device directly to the boy's heart and successfully brought the heart out of fibrillation. Carl Ruggles. He was born in March 1876 and he died in October 1971. His age was 95 at the time of his death, and he died after a long illness. Carl Ruggles was an American composer, painter, and teacher. His pieces employed dissonant counterpoint, a term coined by fellow composer and musicologist Charles Seeger to describe Ruggles' music. His method of a tonal counterpoint was based on a non-serial technique of avoiding repeating a pitch class until a generally fixed number of 8 pitch classes intervened. He is considered a founder of the ultra-modernist movement of American composers that included Henry Cowell and Ruth Crawford Seeger, among others. He had no formal musical education, yet was an extreme perfectionist, writing music at a painstakingly slow rate and leaving behind a very small output. Famous for his prickly personality, Ruggles was nonetheless close friends with Cowell, Seeger, Edgar Varese, Charles Ives, and the painter Thomas Hart Benton. His students include the experimental composer James Tenney and Merton Brown. Conductor Michael Thilson Thomas has championed Ruggles' music, recording the complete works with the Buffalo Philharmonic and occasionally performing Sun Trader with the San Francisco Symphony. Especially later in life, Ruggles was also a prolific painter, selling hundreds of paintings during his lifetime. Walter Van Tilburg Clark. He was born in August 1909 and he died in November 1971. His age was 62 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was cancer. Walter Van Tilburg Clark was an American novelist, short story writer, poet, and educator. He ranks as one of Nevada's most distinguished literary figures of the 20th century and was the first inductee into the Nevada Writers Hall of Fame in 1988, together with Robert Laxalt, Clark's mentee and Nevada's other heralded 20th century author. Two of Clark's novels, The Ox-Bow Incident and The Track of the Cat, were made into films. As a writer, Clark taught himself to use the familiar materials of the Western saga to explore the human psyche and to arise deep philosophical issues. Clark's first published novel, The Oxbow Incident in 1940, was successful and is often considered to be the first modern Western without the usual cliché and formulaic plots of genre. The novel is a story about a lynch mob mistaking three innocent travelers for cattle roasters, suspected of murder. After the travelers are hanged, the lynch mob finds that they killed the wrong suspects. The novel's themes include an examination of frontier law and order, as well as culpability. The novel was well received, gave Clark literary acclaim that was unusual for a writer of westerns. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.